following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. So it's been a long couple months because Bobby doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
I haven't seen him. I don't know him, but he's fired.
This is great. So this is like the fourth show in a row that Bobby's been fired on.
Nice.
Yeah, so I love Bobby a lot. And I really look forward to Wednesdays because Bobby and I have like a relationship where we're just like really mean to each other, but it's stemmed from love. So I'm always looking forward to Bobby sitting across the table from me and just taking my comments and then he just dishes them back to me.
Well, now you got to do all the work, so.
That's okay. It's okay. So Bobby's not here, but we love you, Bobby. You're not really fired. We need you. We love you. You are missed, though, and I hope that you're here next Wednesday. And if you're not here next Wednesday, we're going to take the show to your house. So unless you want a camera crew in your house, I strongly recommend.
Oh, let me know. I'll definitely go for that one.
Okay, all right. He sat down and I was like, so we're gonna talk about Bobby, and he was like, this is great. I don't even know Bobby.
That's it, but we're gonna find you wherever you are.
Funny story. Met Jaimie today in the parking lot. Oh, this is Jaimie. Hi, Jaimie.
Hey, what's going on?
Met Jaimie today in the parking lot, and I was like, hey, I think we went to elementary school together.
Yes.
Possibly middle school.
And right before you got here, I was telling Keith that I'm pretty sure that I know you. I just don't know where, so it's very awkward to ask that question.
Well, good. Let's just start right off the rip. I think we went to school together. I was already alcoholically drinking by middle school. And I remember we didn't hang out, but we had like the same group of friends, and I hung out with like older friends, and I just always remember your presence being there.
Yeah, back then, because we're talking Ashland, so, I wasn't even into drugs or alcohol back then. I was more of the good student jock. When people found out that I smoked marijuana for the first time, they were looking at me like I had 6 heads.
How old were you?
15.
15.
It was my freshman year.
No kidding. I was already a full-blown drug addict by that time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something, do it right.
Yeah. So the Exit Team, Richie Farrell, myself, Phil, and Amy Cloutier, they're all members of the Exit Team. The Exit Team also branches out to Boston, and we do speaking commitments. So we had a show premiere for a show called Romeo and Juliet. And so we got to go to Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester Monday night, and we got to, speak to a large group of people. There was probably over 50 people there. And what was I talking about? Oh, it was about children using.
Yeah.
And so there was a panel of children that had made the movie, and first of all, they were amazing and they were brilliant and they were so insightful. But I looked at them and they were just so little. And I was like, dude, at their age, I was a full-blown drug addict.
Yeah, it's craziness.
Like,
absolutely.
I look at them and they're so innocent. I was like, oh.
I was lucky to have a very good upbringing. So, I just experimented with drugs once I got to high school. And, what ultimately ended up happening was I broke my back in a car accident when I was like 19 years old, and I got addicted to painkillers, and then it just went from there. So, I was opiate addict very soon after that. And, many, many years of using. I got married at a young age. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I was not a very good husband or a father due to that addiction. There's nothing I can do about it now, but it is what it is, But what ended up happening is eventually I got kicked out of the practice that I was seeing, and within a very short period of time, I was driving down to pick up dope and started shooting heroin. So
And so you were 19 when you got in that car accident.
yes,
How old were you when you got sober?
34 years old.
You don't even look 34.
I'll be
So
37 this year.
really? Wow,
Yeah.
you said you had a 15-year-old daughter, and I was like, you don't look old enough to have a 15-year-old daughter. There was a comment on the screen. It's gone. It was actually a question. I think the question was, how big are your biceps?
With a pump on, almost 17 inches.
Okay.
Let me find out. He's fired too.
Okay. Everyone's fired. Okay. All right. So for someone like myself, an active drug addiction. So when someone like I found my way to recovery and into a life worth living and a purposeful life through 12-step recovery. So when someone introduced me to what they call a disease model in 12-step recovery, I could immediately identify with all three folds of the disease. And so one of the folds is that they talk about in 12-step recovery is like this spiritual malady, this feeling of like, I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I'm not okay. And I was like, holy cow, I've had that ever since I was like a baby. Like my earliest memories, I remember not feeling okay. And so a lot of our guests come on and they can, they drink and drug to mask that feeling. And so it's really cool that like you were okay until a car accident.
Yeah, and then then I just used that car accident as an excuse to continue taking the drugs. The relationship that I was in at the time it was a toxic relationship, and I found out real quick that being on opiates numbed all the stuff. So I was taught by my family that when you get married and you have kids, you stick it out no matter what. So I tried to do that, but I did it the wrong way. I used drugs to mask what was going on at home, which it wasn't good for my daughter. It wasn't good for anybody. After that all took place, eventually I became a hardcore methamphetamine addict because I
Okay.
had to function. I know this is a lot about heroin and stuff like that, but the last 6 years of my run, I was a meth guy. I feel it's going to take over the opioid epidemic.
I'm a meth addict too.
Rock on.
Yeah.
There's something about it. I actually use meth to kick dope, which you don't hear, you hear very often nowadays, with the people that I work with. But it's a different type of addiction. When I was on opiates and, I still managed to somewhat have normality in my life with job and doing things. Once I got, hooked on the meth, I lost my soul, all my core values, and I didn't care about anything or anyone. I have 2 younger children that I lost. My second wife, before we ended up using together, but before that, she was all put together. She was had a great career. She was in the military, and ultimately, I didn't force her to use drugs, obviously, but I made it a lot easier being there, and I have a lot of guilt for that. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? So meth is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it sure, all drugs are a hell of a drug, which brings up a great point. We focus so much on the opioid epidemic because we are losing people at an astonishing rate. In 2017, we lost 72,000 people, which was more than the entire Vietnam War.
Right.
So there is definitely a problem there, but the drug is not the problem, right? Like there is a bigger problem going on why society is choosing to numb themselves out. And so I met with a gentleman from the Nashua Police Department the other day. He is our narcotics detective. I can't remember his exact title. I apologize, Officer Kenny. And he was letting me know that like he's like, there's all this focus and like the hubs and like we've got to like get everyone on Suboxone. And he's like, that's great. That's great. You're getting them on Suboxone so they're not dying of a drug overdose. But what about all the people that are out there like overdosing on meth? And he was like, he was just like telling me that like bath salts are making a really big comeback right now and that meth is like at an all-time high. And so he's like, we're not treating the problem.
Right.
We're not treating what the problem is because people are now just substituting to another substance.
Well, that's it, and it's a different type of situation altogether. I know for me personally, I can only speak on a personal level. If anyone's ever been dope sick before, you come back to reality and you're like, man, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. But on meth, I like to get high on meth. I like the feeling, and there's no repercussions, so to speak, for running out of your drug. You know what I mean? There's depression and things like that, but there's no physical dependence. It's just a legit urge to want to keep using it. You know what I mean? So I didn't use meth to mask anything. I did it because I like to get high on meth, and that's the problem is there's no like, again, with opiates, there's the withdrawal symptoms that people don't want to deal with, and it brings them to, medicated assisted treatment programs and going to rehab and this and that. Meth's a different animal altogether, and it's going to take over.
It is. It certainly is already. Which is at that event that I was at on Monday, they brought a motivational speaker in on. He was actually really phenomenal, and he had read like scripture, and he had tied scripture into like motivation and like the opioid epidemic, and it was really really moving. And it set my soul on fire. And so one thing that he had said is it's not enough to just focus on the problem. It's not. And it's like we know what the solution is, and it's we can get people to a solution, but once we get them there, we also have to provide them purpose, and so we put so much focus on getting someone like clean or this or whatever it is they want to be. To me, I have no judgment wherever anyone's at. That's like where I'm at today. But like we need to also help them walk, and they need a passion and a purpose-filled life and a reason to not want to get high again.
Absolutely. And that's what we do at the homes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed the question about how I got started in the addiction field. Basically, that goes back to where I finally decided to get clean. I have been through the Phoenix House. It was a great program, but I relapsed 48 hours later. I've been through the Friendship House, also a good program. I relapsed about 24 hours later. And then eventually I went on the run and I got arrested in southern New Hampshire. I was on the news for 3 days and I'm sitting in Rockingham County Jail. And I actually had absolutely no intention of changing my life. Like I said, I was a hardcore meth addict. I like it. And I was just planning on doing the spin, dry, get out and go right back to what I was doing. And in October, I got arrested on August 3rd, 2017. And in October that year, I called home to my mother and my father had passed away. And you talked about spiritual stuff. I'm not a religious guy, so to speak, but when he passed away, something inside of me changed. My dad was my hero, and he meant everything to me. And from that day forward, I said, I'm gonna figure this out. I ended up getting transported up to Grafton County on a probation violation, and I entered a program called the FIRM program, which is 100 days in the jail doing drug treatment every day except the weekends, and then you get out on a bracelet. Well, Littleton, New Hampshire is in the middle of the woods, so I in no way, shape, or form had any intentions of going there until I knew Keith because I met him at Friendship House and I found out he had the home. And, I wasn't allowed to leave Grafton County on the bracelet. So that's how I ended up there. And, you know, I started out just like a client, just like the rest of our guys, you know what I mean? But I saw what Keith had and I wanted it. And I was working at a get well job for a place called Cut and Fill Dirt Works. The gentleman that owns that company is great. He's from the church and he's, helps out. It's the guy that Keith was talking about that helps out with the houses all the time and stuff. And, he gave me the opportunity to start there, but no offense to him or anything like that. I knew that I was meant for bigger things and that I wasn't really getting any fulfillment out of that job. So one day I sat down with Keith and I said, listen, I think I'm going to go try and get a job at Friendship House. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And we started talking about it and literally everything happens for a reason. A couple days later, I got an opportunity from a woman named Doris Enman, who's the executive director of North Country Serenity Center. And she offered me a job down there. And I got in and it's a peer-to-peer recovery support center. She got me through the Recovery Coach Academy. I'm almost a CRSW now. I am the center manager. I run the center now. And I'm also the regional house manager for White Mountain Recovery Homes. We have 4 houses, soon to be 5, and I run all of them.
That's amazing. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but the cool thing about it is that all the pain and suffering that I put myself through with my active addiction was like going to college for doing what I'm doing now. I know that the times I went through treatment and tried to get clean, if anyone book read tried to tell me anything about anything, I wasn't hearing it. And, it's because someone like myself, I'm very stubborn, as you can imagine. And, I want to hear it for someone who's walked in my path. Keith was my mentor, and that's where I'm at now. And, people respond well to me because of it. You know what I mean? There's nothing anyone can tell me that I haven't done before. So it's very easy to relate to people.
It's just so cool because it gives you're unique in that ability to make that connection that it was life change. Keith you made that connection with Keith, I made that connection with someone, and that connection was life-changing for us. And now we have the ability, and we've been gifted to do that for others,
Absolutely.
and through that, it's just, I don't know, like life is just really so cool, because it starts off like so simple and so challenging, at least for me when I first got sober, and it just blossoms into something so beautiful. And I have seen so many women turn their life around, to something so beautiful. And it just all starts with that little connection.
I don't see much of it with the women. You guys are a problem. I don't work with you guys. The hormones and everything else, I'm all set. But yeah,
You're smart.
yes,
Oh my goodness.
yes.
When you said that you oversee the 4 houses, I thought about, my times where I oversaw women's sober living, and we did not have 45 beds, and I wanted to kill myself. It was terrible, because women are so much more challenging to deal with through recovery, the recovery process. For some reason, I don't know why. I have no idea, but it's so much more challenging. I can work with 20 men, no problem. Give
Right.
me 8 women and I'm pulling my hair out.
Absolutely. There's some women that come into the center, I'm sure, that would say they look up to me and stuff, but I try not to work with them directly. I have a great team at Serenity Center, women recovery coaches that take care of all that stuff, and I'm
Yep.
confident in their abilities to take care of those things when I'm working with the guys. You know what I mean?
We have a mutual friend, don't we?
I would imagine so. Who?
Karen.
Karen Collins.
Karen
Karen
Collins.
Collins, yes. Karen is also very special to me. She was at Serenity Center when I first started there. She was the center manager, basically, the position I have now. And she got me involved in All Recovery, which is a meeting that I've taken off with at Serenity Center. And it gives the guys at the houses and everyone in the community a different take on things without the 12 steps. You know what I mean? Because everyone needs a break from it once in a while, is the way I feel. The 12 steps is what's gotten me clean, but I like to do the 3 Ps. We brought all kinds of meetings to the center. We have 18 meetings a week. But yeah, Karen, she's now the director of the Hope Center in Berlin, and I stay in contact with her all the time. She's also a mentor to me as well.
She's amazing.
I love her.
Yeah, me and Karen.
She's my dude. Yeah.
We've been connected.
If all women were like Karen, I could run a house like that. But unfortunately, that's
They're
not how it is.
Yeah, they're not. Karen's amazing. I love Karen. She has been someone that has been intertwined and woven in and out of my life for several years now. She has been someone that has definitely been a support system for me. And I'd like to think at times that I've been a support system for her.
Sure.
As well. She's a phenomenal human being, though.
Well, it's amazing how when you get involved with people in recovery, even someone that you may learn from in the beginning, you end up being able to help them move forward with anything they have going on. I'm sure Keith would say it about me as I say it about him. You know what I mean? We learn from each other, and that's what I love about what I do. It's very personal.
Yeah, absolutely. So brings up a really cool point too, because sometimes you see people get put on pedestals, right?
Yes.
And so I try not to get myself on a pedestal at all. And so I work with a lot of women. I'm really fortunate and blessed that I get to work with a lot of women, because I see a lot of women come to life, and then that in return fuels my soul.
Right.
But I will call them for advice. I'll be like, listen, this is what's happening, X, Y, and Z, and I had something that could be perceived as an unfortunate event happened to me last week. I lost my job. But it's not an unfortunate event because I wasn't happy there.
Right.
So it was the universe just guiding me to something where I could be happy and thrive. And what did I do? I called women that I work with, and I was crying and I was vulnerable, and I was like, this is where I'm at. I don't know what to do.
I know exactly how. I have 3 people that I deal with. One was a counselor that no longer lives in New Hampshire, and I wish him the best. Keith is the other person I go to, and then my fiance, Emily. Those 3 people, depending on the situation, that's who I call when I'm in need, and it works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a question on the screen for you. What is the policy if someone has a relapse while living in the home?
We have a 0 tolerance policy. But what we do is as Keith mentioned in his show, we're received well in the community. We work with the local police and all the people around. I also worked for the Tyler Blaine House in Lancaster, New Hampshire, that is now being run by amazing people. So I stepped back from that. So they're going to leave, they get discharged, but we try to find them a safe place to go, and we try to make sure that we keep all of our UAs, targeted during the day, so that way we don't obviously we're going to have people are going to run into that are going to use in the middle of the night. We're going to have to discharge them late at night, but we try to avoid that way. If they need a bus ride out, if they need to get in touch with the homeless shelter, if they need to get a hotel or whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? But we have a zero tolerance, and I let all the guys in my houses know, I don't care if you've been here for a year and we've developed a personal relationship, I will throw you out if you use, because my concern is everybody else in my house. If anyone comes in and potentially jeopardizes the recovery of anyone else in the house, they will leave.
Yeah, I think that was an excellent question, especially with the epidemic going on. People definitely have very different stands on it nowadays. Some people, I've been at meetings and they're like, I think it's terrible that if someone relapses, they get thrown out. I've ran recovery houses myself, and it's like, well, that is really terrible for that one individual, but what about the 18 other people there that their life is at jeopardy? And just because that one person didn't die during that time using, like if they're triggered, they could die,
Not
and
only,
this is a life or death situation.
of course, and I mean, we're fortunate we haven't had anybody use like that in the home that's going to potentially have an overdose like that. I lost a very good friend of mine who moved out on his own, and he ended up chasing a girl, and whatever, long and short of it, it never happened in the house. But we it's a situational thing. If depending on what's going on, we may give someone another chance, but we make them leave to at least get cleaned up, and they have
Yep.
to come back with a clean UA. You know what I mean?
It's hard because it is a disease, right? So it's a reoccurring symptom,
Right.
a relapse, and you certainly don't want to shame or stigmatize, but at the same time, you also don't want to enable. You know what I mean? You want to hold people accountable. You want to help them grow. You don't want them to get comfortable, and so it's a hard call to make.
Well, it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? I got clean because of White Mountains Recovery Homes, because of the structure that was provided, because every other time I tried to get clean, it was right back to the trap house, right back to some, dangerous environment where I was at high risk to use again. So having that structure is what kept me clean. So I'm going to make sure that is continued on with my managerial stuff at the houses. You know what I mean? So if we were just going to let people use and stick around without any repercussions, we might as well just run a flop house and deal drugs out of it too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I love the fact that you help people. When I ran sober houses, I had a zero tolerance policy as well, because it was what was best for the community. Not that I didn't love the individual, but we have to think of the community as a whole. But I love the fact that you help them to other resources, and,
Yeah,
and you
no,
let them know they're loved, and to like work on yourself, and you will be welcome back, but just not in the state of mind.
that is the least thing that I like to do with the houses, but it's a necessary thing that needs to get taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So feel like this could be a loaded question, but all right, let's do it. Let's dig right into it.
bang.
What do you think of prescribers putting addicts on gabapentin?
I think, all right, so I'm just going to cover this with a blanketed answer. All right. So, and at North Country Serenity Center, we're open to multiple pathways of recovery.
Yep.
Okay. With White Mountains Recovery Homes, we're a 12-step abstinence-based house. So obviously anyone that comes into our houses is not allowed to be on anything that you could abuse or get high on, gabapentin included. So do I feel that there's a place for medically assisted treatment and things of that nature? Yes. Do I believe that they are used in a manner that's not appropriate? Yes, I do. I think that people don't need to be on some of these things for as long as they are. But who am I to judge? I know that abstinent, the thing is I've been on Suboxone before. I was on it for like 4 years. And when stuff hit the fan, it made it that much easier to go back to dope because I was already not abstinent from, I was clean on Suboxone. So, I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a tool. It is medically assisted treatment, and you have to make sure that the treatment is being provided with it. And for 12 steppers, I think it's a hard concept because you're still managing.
It
So
has
how do you
nothing to
have a
do with the 12 steps. It has to do with I've been to jail before, gotten completely clean and left, and I've seen other guys that do the same thing, and you get them on a program and then they decide to take it anyways. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you can sustain recovery without it while you're in jail because you don't have a choice, why would you do it when you get out there and have something else that you have to worry about in your life? I like the fact that I don't have to wake up in the morning and worry about taking something to live life on life's terms.
Yeah, I've hey, I have a little bit of a different stand on it, and that's okay, to each their own, right? I am a person of abstinence-based recovery. I work with women who want to find the way to abstinence-based recovery. However, I really don't care if someone feels that they need to be on Suboxone, like whatever, dude. Like as long as you're alive, because you can't treat them if you can't meet them, and if that's where they're at, like I'm gonna love them while they're there.
Well, that's just it. When it comes to the houses, I have zero tolerance. When it comes to Serenity Center, I deal with folks all the time on methadone, on Suboxone, on gabapentin, on all the different, you know, treatment drugs. So, just because of my opinion doesn't mean I don't necessarily love somebody that's on those programs. I just know that it doesn't work for me.
There you go. Perfect. That's yeah, right. For me too. I failed miserably at Suboxone. We don't have enough time to get into that.
Yeah, that's a whole other
It was
topic.
one of the worst times in my life because I couldn't figure out why I was still miserable because I was taking my solution and like
Right.
and so for me it was a really terrible time, but I just feel like times have really shifted. People are dying at an alarming rate, and like what I just like have no opinion. I just want to love everyone, and like if you want to walk with me in my way, like I'll show you how we do it. But other
Absolutely.
than that, I'll just love everyone for where they're at.
That's it.
So if you look on the screen right now, you can see my information. So 603-721-1588. That is my cell phone number. Right here. Hey, chirp chirp.
Nice.
If anyone has any questions, or you want some resources, you have a loved one struggling, you're struggling, you can certainly reach out to me. My email address is there. And as always, please go like our Facebook page. I'm a heroin addict. Just click like. Invite all your friends to like it. It's a way for us to stay connected to the community. It's a way for us to get in contact with our guests, with our viewers. Jaimie, how do they get a hold of you?
You can call me on my cell phone, 603-726-1352, or you can reach me at North Country Serenity Center, which is 603-444-1300.
And Jaimie's contact information is right on the screen.
Yep.
If anyone's struggling, you need resources, you need someone to talk to, you're not sure where to go, you're not sure. I get a lot of phone calls from family members. They're not sure like what kind of boundaries to hold, what is in the best interest of their child. Please reach out to Jaimie. Or you're feeling shy, email him. His email's up there. Check out White Mountain Recovery
Love to hear
Homes.
from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Please utilize him. So people sometimes are like, well, I didn't want to bother you. And I'm like, no, you reaching out to me literally helps me save my life. So
If you don't bother me, I have the day off.
bother him. We need him working.
That's it.
It was a great show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you guys for watching, and reach out for help, and we love you all.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.